Warner Animation Group, one of the major animation studios to pop up in the 2010 decade. You might know them for the creative team behind the Lego Movie, or the Lego Batman movie, or the recent Scoop. But for some reason, this company, or this studio I should say, doesn't really get talked about that much. There are a lot of people pointing out how Sony Animation or Illumination or Blue Sky is struggling to find a foothold in the animation industry, but nobody seems to talk about Warner Animation Group. But believe me when I say, Warner Animation Group is struggling really hard. They find themselves in the same problems that other animation studios have, where they have one successful film, but after that, all of their other films get overshadowed by a lot of other animated films. Why is that? Why has Warner Animation Group struggled to find a foothold in the animation industry? Why are they struggling to reach the same potential that their competitors have? Well, let's take a look at what ruined, or what is ruining, Warner Animation Group. Now, I'm not going to go into the full history because that would take probably an hour, because to understand the history of Warner Animation Group, we need to understand the history of the studio that preceded it, Warner Brothers Feature Animation. In 1991, Warner Brothers Feature Animation was founded, and this is a studio that would compete with Disney in making their own animated features. Their first film was Space Jam. It was a mix of live action and animation, and it was quite successful, raking in $230.4 million off of an $80 million budget. Warner Brothers Feature Animation was off to a great start. However, Space Jam would be their only legitimate success, and it was all downhill from there. And this kind of plays into Warner Animation Group's string of bad luck, since the exact same thing happened. Next was Quest for Camelot in 1998. It's a movie based off the King Arthur legend, where Garrett and Kayleigh have to save Camelot. When it was released, it was an absolute disaster, making $38.1 million at the box office off of a $40 million budget. And to this day, Quest for Camelot is known as a Disney clone, alongside Ferngully and the Swan Princess. Their next film was The Iron Giant in 1999. And this film is quite a legend in the animation industry. It went from being a flop to an underrated gem to a cultural worldwide phenomenon, and is now considered one of the greatest animated features of all time. Oh, by the way, I'm sorry, I kind of spoiled its box office take for you guys. I'll still get into that. When it was released in 1999, it was another box office failure for Warner Brothers, making $31.3 million off of a $48 million budget. However, after it became famous, it had a limited edition re-release in theaters, so it got a second chance on the big screen. Their next film was Osmosis Jones in 2001. Just like Space Jam, it was a mixture of live action and animation. It takes place inside Bill Murray, where a white blood cell and a pill try to save Bill Murray from a virus named Thrax. When Osmosis Jones was released, it was an even worse failure for Warner Brothers, making $14 million off of a $75 million budget. However, later on, Osmosis Jones would later get its own TV series with Ozzy and Drix, which lasted for 2 seasons. Warner Brothers Feature Animation's last film was Looney Tunes Back in Action in 2003. Just like Space Jam, it was a mixture of live action and animation. It originally started off as a sequel to Space Jam, but later got changed due to the director not wanting anything to do with Space Jam, and making the Looney Tunes movie he wanted to make. Warner Brothers Feature Animation had a lot of high hopes for this film, that it would save them from absolute destruction. And when Looney Tunes Back in Action was released in theaters in 2003, it was a failure. It was a slight improvement from last time. It made $68.5 million, but off of a $80 million budget. Looney Tunes Back in Action was the final straw. And so in 2003, Warner Brothers Feature Animation shut down for good. After Warner Brothers Feature Animation shut down, the studio didn't release any animated features that were made by them. However, they still distributed a lot of animated features throughout the 2000s and the early 2010s. The Polar Express, The Ant Bully, TMNT, Legend of the Guardians of the Owls of Ga'Hoole, and many more. But it was Happy Feet that inspired Warner Brothers to get back into the animation game. It won the Oscar for Best Animated Feature in 2006, beating out Cars and Monster House. On January 7th, 2013, Warner Animation Group was founded. Their first movie was the Lego Movie. Now, I don't think I need to explain the story of the Lego Movie. Y'all pretty much know the story. Emmett is prophesied to be the special and to defeat Lord Business and stop the Kraggle. I won't be explaining how the Lego Movie got made. You go to Animat's video for that. He did it way better than I ever could. When the Lego Movie was released, it was a major success, making $468.1 million off of a $60 to $65 million budget. It was one of the biggest hits of 2014. People kept talking about it and talking about it. It was a phenomenon. Warner Animation Group was off to a fantastic start. But just like Warner Bros. Feature Animation, they soon experienced a decline shortly after the Lego Movie's release. But not as bad. Their next film was Storks in 2016. Instead of a stop-motion like Brick feature, it was a fully computer animated feature. It's a pretty jarring change of pace for the studio. It's about a stork named Junior who wants to become boss of the company that, instead of delivering babies like storks used to do, they now deliver packages. However, in order to become boss, he has to fire a close friend of his, Tulip, which he can't bring himself to do, and that eventually leads him to sending her off to the baby factory, where they find this baby and must deliver this baby to the family that is waiting for her. When Storks was released, it was a major step down from the Lego Movie, making $183.4 million off of a $78 million budget. So it wasn't a failure, but compared to the Lego Movie, it was a step down. Their next film was the Lego Batman movie in 2017. It's a spin-off of the Lego Movie featuring one of the Lego Movie's most popular characters, their version of the Batman. When the Lego Batman movie was released, it was praised by critics. It was also a financial hit at the box office, making $312 million off an $80 million budget. It's not technically Lego Movie numbers, but it was still pretty fantastic the way it performed. Things were looking great for the future of the Lego Movie franchise. It seemed like our futures would have more adventures with Lego figurines. However, that all changed in late 2017 when their next feature was released. Their next film was the Lego Ninjago movie. It's not a movie based on the Cartoon Network show, but it's based on the Lego Ninjago set. It's about Lloyd, who must defend Ninjago City from his dad, Lord Garmadon. Garmadon, that's how you say it. When the film was released, it was a downturn for the whole Lego Movie franchise and Warner Animation Group, as it made $123.1 million off of a $70 million budget. Now, it may seem like it was a success, but it really wasn't. When you take into account the marketing, the cast's paychecks, and all the people that worked on it, the Lego Ninjago movie was a flop. However, stay tuned until the end of the story. Warner Animation Group was not ready to give up on the Lego Movie franchise yet. Their next film was Smallfoot in 2018. It's a lot like Hotel Transylvania. Yetis don't believe that humans exist, but when Migo discovers this, Migo's the main character, he sets off on a journey to find a human to prove his tribe wrong. When it was released, it actually did alright, making $214 million off an $80 million budget. So while not a complete hit, Warner Animation Group still had some money coming in. Confident that they could still bank off of the Lego Movie franchise, Warner Animation Group released the long-awaited sequel, The Lego Movie 2, the second part. It takes place right after the first one, after those aliens invaded. They now live in a post-apocalyptic world, and things are made even worse when General Mayhem captures the gang and takes them to the Sistar system, where they'll be joined in peace by Batman and Queen whatever wannabe's wedding. Thinking that it's a trap, Emmett and his new friend Rex Dangerfest set out to rescue the gang. Just like Warner Bros. Feature animation with Looney Tunes back in action, Warner Animation Group had high hopes for the Lego Movie 2, that it would bring the franchise to where it once was, a successful powerhouse in the animation industry. However, when the film was released, it was an absolute disaster, only making $192.3 million off of a $99 million budget. Just like with Looney Tunes Back in Action, Lego Movie 2 was a complete bomb. After the Lego Movie 2 flopped, Lego ended its partnership with Warner Brothers and was bought out by Universal. And now the future of the Lego Movie franchise is in question. Their last and current film, Scoob, was released a year later. However, this wasn't released in theaters due to the pandemic. It went straight to VOD. It's an animated feature based on the popular show Scooby-Doo. And in this film, the gang goes up against Dick Dastardly and try to save the world from the underworld. On video on demand, Scoob made $22.8 million off a $99 million budget. So Scoob was a complete financial failure. And this is the last film Warner Animation Group has released. So that was the full history of Warner Animation Group. So what's going on? Why has Warner Animation Group struggled to find the same success as their more successful competitors? Well, I think there are a few reasons. Number one, franchise fatigue. Since their debut in 2014, Warner Animation Group made 7 animated features, which the majority of were Lego movies. This is a problem that other studios have, like Blue Sky or Illumination, where they have a successful franchise, but they keep milking it. They keep making more and more movies of that franchise until eventually people get tired of it. And that's exactly what happened with the Lego Movie franchise. People get tired of seeing Lego movies every year, and so eventually they just get tired of it and don't go to see the Lego movies. The Lego Movie started out as an amazing animated feature beloved by many, but as soon as Warner Animation Group started milking the success of the Lego Movie to a point where people just didn't want to see it anymore, they pretty much killed their most successful franchise. And we've seen this done before. Look at Blue Sky with Ice Age. Look at DreamWorks with Shrek. They all started out as successful animated features, but continuously milked the success of said animated feature and eventually drove their audience away. Number 2, a lack of creativity. If you look at all the movies that Warner Animation Group released from 2014 to 2020, only 2 of them are original. The rest are either based off a brand or a TV show. And this is a big problem. This is a problem that Blue Sky has, where instead of releasing something original, they just release either a sequel or something based off an already existing property. And this is how many studios cause themselves to stumble. This is why Pixar keeps on making a big impact, because instead of making sequels every year, they make something original, or at least they used to. That's how they grew so big. And in my opinion, that's what every studio needs to do. But unfortunately, big studios like Warner Brothers and 20th Century Fox only care about money, not about creativity. And that's exactly why studios like Blue Sky Studios and Sony Pictures Animation aren't taken as seriously as Pixar. And the lack of creativity is very prominent at Warner Animation Group. You saw that they were milking the Lego Movie franchise, but then the Lego Movie 2 came along and pretty much killed the Lego Movie franchise. So what was their next step? What did they do next? They turned to a popular TV show like Scooby-Doo. And there's a rumor that they were trying to build a Hanna-Barbera cinematic universe out of it to compete with the MCU. And that just shows that Warner Animation Group is more concerned about money than about creativity. They see how much money that the MCU makes every film, and they want that cash. They want a piece of that pie. And guys, I know money is the #1 priority for a company, but if you're an animation company and you have limitless creativity, then creativity should be up there with money. That's how you make an impact in the animation industry. But it doesn't seem like Warner Animation Group really cares. Alright, so what's ruining Warner Animation Group? Franchise fatigue. They milked their flagship of a franchise until it died. Number 2, lack of creativity. Instead of making original films with a sense of artistry and creativity, they rather just want to make whatever audiences will go see. You like Scooby-Doo? Well, we'll make an animated feature based on Scooby-Doo, and it will be a huge success. Instead of having creativity as a studio, they rather just want to make money. And that's usually a studio's biggest downfall. Right now, Warner Animation Group is in a bad spot. They have the money to make memorable and impactful animated features, but they rather just want to make money. That's all. And that's not bad for a studio, but if there's no drive to make something great, then don't expect great things to come out of your studio. If Warner Animation Group keeps going down this path, they'll be known as yet another animation studio that makes mediocre films that end up only pleasing kids, and that's it. And the only other legacy their movies will have is just being another animated feature in the bargain bin. It's a harsh truth, I know, but they need to hear this if they ever want to turn around. But they gotta start caring about more than just money, and start caring about creativity, and the people that work there, and the people watching their movies. Because if they don't, they will only sink lower and lower into the forgettableness of kiddie fodder animated features. So guys, what do you think of Warner Animation Group? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Do you think that they can pull themselves out of the place that they're in right now? Let me know down in the comments. I'll see you guys later.